respecting the chair, of course. I call Christina McKelvie, followed by Margaret Mitchell.
Thank you very much, Presiding Officer. Our Scottish Government, as we've heard today, has responded commendably to the need for far greater awareness of violence against women and girls. And already we have outlawed, we're on our way to outlawing revenge porn. We've introduced Clare's Law across the country. We have the Abuse of Behaviour and Sexual Harm Act, and looking forward to working with the Government on a domestic violence bill. But we are constantly fighting human trafficking and exploitation, and all forms of exploitation on women and girls. But now we are striving to develop a social security system that respects human rights and treats people, especially women, but everyone, with dignity and respect. One, I would hope, without a rape clause. While we can congratulate ourselves on one hand, we must always be vigilant and thoughtful about how we tackle some of the most heinous crimes, which roughly 1 in 3 of every woman are affected or become a victim. None of us, Presiding Officers, are born with a desire to do violence to anyone, nor are we born with an innate prejudice. I was visiting a primary school in Wishaw the other day as part of my committee duties, talking to children between primary 4 to 7. They were undertaking a project on human rights, and they were given red, amber and green cards to tell us in the Scottish Government, the Scottish Parliament, what we were doing well, what we could do better in, and what we weren't doing well, and were they absolutely fantastic. The task was to rate how the Scottish Government had performed in certain issues, and they included ideas of fairness. And there was one little boy who had a very clear idea, and he was asked what he thought was unfair. And he said, it's not fair the way people treat immigrants and refugees. And he was very confident in that assertion. These children, Presiding Officer, did not like inequality. So when it comes to sexual violence, physical or mental, it is an equality issue, and we need to do everything we can to embed that idea in the classroom, where the receptive children will readily absorb that concept. That's where a cultural belief in a value of fairness begins. In the summer, the EIS produced new guidance for teachers on challenging misogynistic attitudes among children and young people. It's called Getting It Right for Girls. This will help teachers challenge at the early stage of a child's development good, positive attitudes. And at the launch of this resource with the EIS, one speaker said at the launch that inequality starts when the midwife says, "It's a girl." And that really struck home with me, being a mother of 2 sons. Hopefully my sons have got some clear feminist values. But further along in life, the Stand and Safe campaign mounted in universities, which I and Margaret Mitchell supported at UWS, the University of West of Scotland, shows that young people themselves are determined to bring an end to any kind of violence visited upon women and girls. And the UN Unite campaign is, in one sense, is knocking at an open door, especially in Scotland. No normal person would support the promulgation of violence, yet there remains a major job to do. According to Zero Tolerance, violence against women and girls is a significant social problem in Scotland, which prevents the country being as safe, healthy and productive as it could be. And that's what we all want for our women and our girls. It remains very prevalent both in Scottish society and globally, and is still wildly tolerated. The fact that it's tolerated is mind-blowing. And when the leader of the new leader of the free world suggests it's okay to sexually assault women, then we all know we have work to do. But it is rooted in women's inequality, as I've said, unequal pay and economic, social and political power, sexual harassment, objectification. We all need to step up. The unequal distribution of women with caring responsibilities too all leads to that clear indication of inequality. But all of this is preventable, but it takes real commitment and resource. That aspect might not be the easiest one to sell, and I respect this year's campaign theme of acquiring increased, sustained funding for organisations working to end violence against women and girls. Governments globally need to step up their support if we are to succeed in outlawing this aggressive and damaging behaviour. At the UN's official launch of the annual campaign, where attendees draped themselves in scarves of orange, the colour of the UN, has been chosen to mark action against violence today. And I see my colleague Claire Baker has resplendent in her orange today, putting the rest of us to shame. But that colour it marks that clear indication from the UN. It's the chosen colour. It stands out. But the UN Secretary-General Ban Ki-moon said governments need to step up their support, as I have said, of women's movements, civil society groups, to address what is a human rights violation. Women's rights are human rights. Human rights are women's rights. A health concern and a major obstacle to development. a major obstacle to women's development, not just here but around the world. So it's time to see this whole issue in that wider context of the damage violent behaviour causes. It isn't confined to the bedroom or closed doors. It isn't confined to some far-off land. It's here, it's now. And if we can ensure equality for girls and women nationally and globally, then I'm sure we can ensure a safer, more equal world for our boys and men. Presiding Officer, 16 days of action against domestic violence is aimed at businesses to support them to tackle action against domestic abuse and the violence that takes place. We have a duty. Businesses have a duty. As parliamentarians, we have a duty. As a government, we have a duty. As parties, we have a duty. We have a duty to end that gender-based violence now and for all. And today, we could be fearless and end that.